So I would like to introduce Jiri. Short name is Jirka, and he will also introduce to all of you. But we all three cooperated together on the projects, and Jirka is a business development director of Quinta Analytica. So I let him to introduce to you. So welcome.
Okay, thank you, Pavlina, thank you, Peter. So my name is Jiri. I like to say myself Jiri, but I'm a Chief Commercial Officer of Quinta Analytica. It's the Czech-based CRO located, headquartered here in Prague, and we are part of actually the German group Concio Group, with headquartered in Munich, and basically what we do is that we are doing basically all kind of services for testing and analysis of drugs. It means analytical chemistry, it means analytical development, and also clinical studies mainly. And this is what we are going to discuss, I believe. Yeah. So maybe a couple of words about myself. So thanks for having me. Actually, yeah, this is a big pleasure. And so I actually studied chemistry. Actually, since my 15, I was passionate about chemistry. So I studied chemistry here in Czech Republic on the University of Pardubice, and then I did my PhD in physical chemistry as well. So basically, I'm chemist by education. I completely fall in love with chemistry, which was really passion from the beginning. And then I tried several positions in the area of course, like head of quality control laboratory. I was a project manager. I was head of manufacturing, actually, in a very nice botanical, company producing botanical drugs. And then step by step, I moved rather to business development area. So last 15 years now, actually, I'm in a purely business position. So basically in Quinta, I'm already from, I think it's since March 2018. So already a couple of years, and I'm responsible for all the business activities and marketing activities in that area.
Do you miss the chemistry and the laboratory work, or not
Actually, a little bit, yes. Yeah. But I'm a little bit afraid that, coming to the lab already, it would not be actually a good end at the end.
They changed it a bit.
It changed. Years. Especially what I really, admire is really the expertise of our colleagues, who are really experts in that area. I'm pretty sure that that nowadays, for instance, it's a little bit a part of the clinical studies, but I'm sure especially nowadays, this big problem with nitrosamines. It's a big issue, and it's one of the flagships we have, and it's really very nice piece of art, I would say, in chemistry, because when you consider on a concentration level which you need to actually detect and measure, it's unbelievable. It's like single digit ppb, which is unbelievable. So it really needs some very nice expertise and know-how to do
high tech as well.
Of course, yeah.
And as you mentioned, so you are the head of several services, departments in for commercial in Quinta Analytica. Which area is right now the number one, and which area you see in last 5 years has been a little bit put on hold, or is the area that the clients are not so much interested?
Mm-hmm. What I would say that number one at the moment is really everything around biologics. Actually, this is big boom. It can be biologics or biosimilars, both of them, because of course at the moment, as you may know, nowadays there is on the market this biologics void, as they call it. That actually very soon there will be plenty of drugs where I think it's maybe even 90% of those biologics which are going off patent will have no replacement by the biosimilars, which is huge. So there is plenty of opportunities in that area for both the developers as well as for the companies as we are, like service providers. So biosimilar studies, generally I would say PK studies with the biosimilars, but also with small molecules still are of very, very high interest. I would say that basically the era of pure generics, these are gone in Europe, I would say, because there are so big pressures on price, on the markets and from the insurance companies and so on, that purely generics are dead, I would say. But companies are rather looking for what they call value-added products, and this is where I believe is the future of the small molecules. Yeah. So this is one thing, and of course, any type of analytics, especially as I said, like we name it already, nitrosamines, for instance. This is a very nice example of very interesting, area because. This is something very, very unique, I would say. It's not just already like, to measure like, I don't know, loss on drying or I don't know, I don't want to say like stupid assay of the drug, but, this very, unique, challenging impurities, development of the method, which are very, very tricky. And also in a combination with still the equipment, which is super expensive nowadays. This makes, this of very high interest of the both originators as well as generic manufacturers, because you will always have something to solve in that area.
How about the clinical studies?
Clinical studies, I would say that the golden era of typical PK or bioequivalent studies, I mean the core business what we are doing, was, I would say, maybe a little bit like, or it is like in history, I would say. For this typical generics, as I said, because nowadays plenty of companies are rather going to, I don't know, India or Jordan and so on, where it's super, super cheap. On the other hand, there are still quite big interest from the companies who are going for European market or US market, that they want to be 120% sure about, the integrity of the data, about the quality of the data you are providing. So many companies, especially for those difficult bioequivalent studies, are still prefer actually to stay in Europe. So basically, you can always do some nice business with measuring bioequivalence of, I don't know, 20th paracetamol on the market. But when you have some interesting drug where you need maybe even to prove, like, how the pH in stomach actually, for instance, it might be influenced. So, there are not so many actually companies in the world who are able to do this kind of testing, because it really needs a very big experienced team, I would say, one. And second, really still like integrity of, of the processes and the data to be provided, because nowadays we all know it. I mean, FDA, they can knock the door every day without any like invitation, I would say. So you have to be ready 100%.
And how you started? So you started with the laboratory services and extended to the clinics because you see the demand for that, or you started parallel?
Yeah. Actually, it's quite a long history. I think we don't have so much time, but to make it short, we started with the bioanalytics, basically because it was one client who actually was really, really struggling with some kind of like, instability of one product. And we were actually the last resort for him. So he shared it very openly. It was in 1990s, basically, I would say. Yeah. And the owner, the founder of the company in those days, Mr. Raska, who is now quite senior guy already, but still very active, and one of the best LCMS specialists, he actually accepted the challenge. And basically with his team, he solved this. So this is how it started, and then it was with the company Synthon, basically, which is not the secret nowadays, because I mean it's quite known that we are still good partners so far, and it's a great partnership for years, and basically from that we started to add additional services. And one of the last actually was the clinical unit. It was in 2007, and the very last one was actually what I was mentioning about large molecules, so the biopharmaceutical department. So we have it already like, I don't know, more than 10 years now, and it's still visible, that there is growing interest, and the demand on the market is definitely there.
Currently, we are really trying to help small biotech startup companies to reach the next milestone, going from preclinical to clinical stage and completing the first phase 1 up to phase 2 studies, which is really challenging, not just because they don't have a funding, but also they don't have expertise, they don't have the proper vendors. How do you see the current market, how we can help as a service providers here, or how we can help these small companies compared to the big corporates and big pharma companies?
I think it's a very good point, actually, because it's funny that plenty of companies like ours actually are trying to go to big multinational players. We all know them. We don't need to name them, but actually they seem to be like a holy grail. Yeah. On the other hand, the negotiation with them is a little bit complicated. I would say even more than a little bit. Yeah. There are plenty of processes with their procurement, lengthy negotiation. They are very, of course, price sensitive as well, and so on and so forth. While these small to mid-sized companies, actually, they are really rather focused on having less partners as possible to cover maximum work. So basically, this is where we are really strong, I would say, and we have plenty of such examples. That basically, you can start with a small analytical development, then you can go to analytical method validation, routine testing, release, and then clinical studies and bioanalytics. So basically, we can cover all, and this is what they really like. So this is, I believe, this is exactly. I don't like to say. I mean, everybody's saying nowadays, like one-stop shop. I mean, nobody's one-stop shop, of course, but it's nice, it's fancy, but it's like that, and we believe this is usually a very nice success story when you succeed together. And we have plenty of such examples. Just recently on our LinkedIn page, actually, we announced a very nice partnership with Finnish-based company who is developing some drug against Parkinson. And it's absolutely amazing to be part of that story when you help them, with the development, and you see how they are progressing. So it's like phase 1, then they go to phase 2, and so on. And when you are part of that story, I mean, it's something which really makes you. That you can feel that you feel that it makes sense actually what you are doing. Yeah.
So I feel also you prefer to work with these small medium-sized companies. It's more interesting. It's more straightforward.
It's yes and no, because on the other hand, that they are having, of course, this problem. What you are saying, that actually they may struggle with the funding from time to time. So many times, and especially this is what I see like last 1 or 2 years, that basically they ask you for some proposal. Request for proposal, then you actually do the exercise. You spend like 2 weeks on that, and then at the end of the day, they say yes, this is perfect. Now we will wait like 1 year to get the funding, and then
just postponing.
So this might be the biggest struggle for them. But when they are ready, then it's absolutely amazing.
Those usually companies, they have very small team. How you solve this problem, because you need a partner that you will discuss with them what they need, and also you need to a little bit navigate them to give them advices. So how you solve this issue?
Well, everything's about, of course, communication, project management. This is also another like bold and fancy name, project management today. I mean, everybody wants to be a project manager. But what I believe, it's still, I mean, we all are still human beings, so it's just about communication, nothing else. And like 1 year ago, we actually started to implement some kind of experiment, I would say, in a company. Something what we call customer success manager. So it's kind of like a project manager, and also kind of like a maybe business person. So it's because usually typical problem is that when you get the business, for the business people, usually after that this project is gone because you need to develop some new business. However, it's still not properly handled by the manufacturing. I mean operations. So you need somebody who will take a step ahead and fill this gap. So it will be like a bridge between the business and operation. And so we started in the area of analytics with that. And I think it shows that it has some nice benefits at the moment. So we would like to extend it to further, areas, even like to clinical and so on. But basically, if you have really somebody who is taking care about the client, and he feel that he's being taken care, this is very important for him, because for client it doesn't matter usually if he needs to discuss with person 1, person 2, person 3. What he hates is to repeat himself. So when you have three persons, but they are communicating very well, it's perfectly fine. But the client doesn't want to repeat himself, so then it doesn't matter for him if one day he's communicated with John and second day with Frank.
And you mentioned that Quinta Analytica is a part of a German corporation.
It's a private equity actually behind,
equity?
yes.
Okay. So what actually your subsidiaries or the other subsidiaries they are doing?
Yeah, actually with this membership, I would say that we become the member of Concio Group. Actually, it's a nice extension of the services we have because, as I told you, we have several lines. Like I said, analytics, we have development, we have clinical, bioanalytical. But now, actually, being part of Concio Group means that we can also offer formulation development. This is actually a very important thing because one thing is, of course, somebody is interested about like formulation of some new medical product. On the other hand, many companies, especially if they are coming from so-called third countries, they need to have IMP. We believe, right? Yes. On the same page. So IMP batch produced according to like European standards or ideally in Europe, which might be from time to time problem. Or you can either like audit them, inspect them, and so on. But it's quite a lengthy process. While if you do it in Europe, then it's pretty simple and straightforward. So while having now this formulation actually located in Germany means that we are really now this one-stop shop, I would say, because basically we can help them to formulate and produce this IMP in Europe, release it in Europe, and then continue with the clinical study. So basically, it's a very nice extension of what we are doing, because without that, we still would need to rely on some third party, which can bring another like uncertain things, and contribution to the problem. Yeah.
And right now, you mentioned this kind of the services, yeah. You do also the personalized medicine.
It is actually a good question because this is what resonates nowadays every day, everywhere. Well, there are plenty of things what might be considered like a personalized medicine. You can do it really like 2D printing. You can do even 3D printing, and it's actually super nice when you see 3D printed tablet just prepared for you or for you. So it's great. On the other hand, I still believe that there is not the right time for that on the market. The regulation around that is a little bit complicated, but we already have some nice requests and projects where companies are, approaching us, asking us about, 2D oral dispersible film, for instance. This is very interesting. But there, you can do this way, or you can put it even to the level, which is, in my opinion, super fantastic when you have like ODF film with the QR code printed on that, and it's printed with the ink, which basically is the API, the active substance, and the thickness, let's say, of the ink is just like the dose. So basically, this QR code, when you read it with the phone, everybody's using that. It can serve as a SMPC, basically like a procedure how to use it. And the good thing is actually that this SMPC is actually provided by, I would say, like kind of like avatar, and it can be you, it can be me. So even for your kids, basically, it can be like the mommy is showing to the kid, like, Johnny, you now need to take it like twice a day, and so on and so it's interesting actually, and it's unbelievable. But as I said, I think it's still a little bit early actually to have it everywhere.
Okay, you mentioned the issue with the regulation, but is it also the problem because of the price?
Regulation is definitely still number one, but I already read many things that authorities are now looking the way how to do it, and I heard actually that in the US it's more advanced already for some years. But the regulation in terms of price and maybe insurance is the second point, and I think maybe even more important, because we all know how is the situation nowadays with the insurance companies. Obviously, they don't want to pay for that, obviously, because it's still, a little bit like gray zone, nobody knows how it will be. And to actually have some kind of like a payment condition for something which actually still is not 100% approved, and no one actually, even to the patients, this can be tricky. Yeah.
You mentioned this regulation barrier. How do you see that Europe has a new regulation since a few years compared to the US? So Europe was always a bit slower in clinical research regulation, and the US and Australia was much further away. Are we able, or are you able to overcome with these delayed regulatory approvals based on your more efficient service provider, more efficient conduct of the clinical studies and analytics, and also with the cost effectiveness?
Mm-hmm. This is a very good and sensitive question, I would say. Well, a couple of years ago, of course, let's stay with this clinical trial approval. As you know, it was this CTA process. Now it was changed to CTIS, Clinical Trial Information System. In past CTA, when I will refer to Czech Republic, for pure bioequivalent study, it was maximum like 30 days for approval. Of course, you need to prepare all the documentation.
It's well prepared.
Necessary to say that actually even the amount, the volume of the documentation is pretty heavy, actually, comparing to, I don't know, like Canada or other countries. But okay, then CTIS came, and it was absolutely nightmare because for companies like us who are doing purely PK bioequivalent studies, to wait for the approval up to 4 months, it was disaster. So basically, we were always able to find some way of a discussion with SUKL, our local authority, which, by the way, is a great authority, I have to say, comparing to other authorities, as far as I know. So they are always, supportive and so on, but they still need to actually comply with the CTIS period. So within last 2 years or something like that, we were able to identify and agree actually with SUKL, with the authority, on a certain procedure, which taking us back to the previous one, which basically means that now, if everything goes well, because of course it always depends on the quality of the documentation, of the data from the sponsors and so on. But if everything goes well, we are able to get the approval in like 25, 26 days.
Which I think is a great benefit, even for the small startups, because they'll save the money for personal costs, timelines, and everything. So this is a great news.
Exactly, and this is what I believe. But I believe in Hungary is the same, right? It's very very convenient environment, I would say.
Yeah, for a single center or single country studies, they get, let's say, a fast track, not official fast track, but they're doing faster because they don't need to wait for other member states' feedbacks. Because
exactly.
The problem is that if you enroll more than one country, they have to communicate, which is not always going well. They have to wait for each other. They are overloaded, especially in the first 1.5 year. All the old studies, they were shifted to the new system. So there was thousands of studies to be upgraded to the new system. So it was a significant delays. But unfortunately, so still much longer than it should be.
Honestly speaking, for me, there is still one question mark I have. Because when I compare it, for instance, with Canada, plenty of companies are going to Canada. The disadvantage with Canada is still that they are significantly expensive comparing to like European price and so on. On the other hand, if they are able to get the approval in 7 days or 2 weeks or something like that, with just a fraction of the documentation what is needed in Europe, then the question is, why they are able to do so and not us. And I'm not aware that basically it is some problem with the quality of the medicines, in Canada or something like that they will just fake something or something like that. Yeah?
It's the same in Australia.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's European Union is a super great, element, or how to call it, a group. But in this way, we are complicating the things a little bit.
It's a bit over-administrated, over-complicated.
Yeah. But then I believe that it's still good that each country can take a lead in their own initiatives, what SUKL did, for instance, because I heard that there is plenty of similar things like in the Netherlands, the Belgium and others. Yeah, so.
And also, I guess it was 2 years ago, last year, you opened a subsidiary in Ostrava for clinical trials. How is it going?
It's interesting, actually, and it's the main idea was that basically here in Prague, when you run certain number of studies, then basically I don't want to say the nasty way, but you consume basically all the volunteers which are able to go or join the clinical studies. in certain time, you always can like recycle them, if you put it this way, like, after the proper washout and so on. On the other hand, when there is a still growing demand on the studies, you need to look for some different solutions.
For the population.
Exactly. And of course, if you nowadays with the great connections, like, I don't know, trains, highway in Czech Republic, we know that it's not super, super well, and it's not working super well. But, volunteers, they would love to go to the clinical study, but they hate to travel like 4 or 5 hours, something like that. So then we said, okay, so maybe let's open something which will be on completely different edge of Czech Republic. And of course, Ostrava as a, I would say, capital city of Moravian, let's say part of Moravian, Silesian, part of Czech Republic. It's actually the biggest part of Czech Republic in terms of like density of population and the number of the population actually in Czech Republic as well. So we said that it might be a good alternative because we will be at the end of the day like in a two very big and heavily populated part of Czech Republic. Plus in Ostrava, the idea was that it's very close to Polish and Slovakian border. And of course nowadays with all of these regulations being like freed up, actually it means that you can recruit not only Czech citizens, but also people with like Slovakian or Polish citizenship and so on.
Cross-border recruitment.
Exactly. So I'm not saying we are doing that at the moment, but we are doing maximum to make it happen as soon as possible. And we are on a very good way, especially with the Slovakian population, because it's literally like, I don't know, 30 minutes, from Slovakian border. So in that way, we are trying to progress. And of course, another point was that, of course, in cooperation with the local hospital, because we work with the city hospital Ostrava, there. So there are another experts who can help and expand our, knowledge and expertise. So this is another thing. Plus, of course, as I said, when you are coming to the capacity edge, this is the problem because nobody would like to hear that you need to wait 6-7 months, until we free up, the capacity. So this is another like extension of the capacity for us, and we are very happy to have this.
And you mentioned here that actually the biologics are number one. Also, the personalized medicine will be in a few years, maybe number one. Where you actually see the development of your business in a few years?
I believe that as a baseline, let's call it this way, we still, for us, number one pillar, let's say, of our business is still analytical stuff. So method development, QC, routine testing, routine analysis, and so on. On the other hand, we believe that with all of that, let's say, whirl around biologics nowadays, it's hard to predict, like 3 years, maybe something like that. We believe that there will be still very high growth in terms of the biosimilars or, I would say even advanced biologics, because nowadays what we see, ADCs, antibody drug conjugates, this is amazing market and also amazing type of products because, we are from Czech Republic, so we all know Sotio. It's a great company who is working on great ADC products, and we are very proud to be their partner for many years. So we are supporting not only the bioanalytical programs, but also, like a development of the methods. And with the ADCs, it's something which not everybody can test because you really need to combine the expertise in the large molecules analytics with the small molecules because of the characteristic of the ADC drug. And there are plenty of companies who are amazing in biologics, but they are missing the small molecules part, for instance, or vice versa. So we are very happy that we can combine both. And I was recently I think it was in Switzerland on some event, and it was very nice lecture there. And what I heard was that basically, despite the fact that ADCs are growing still already for several years, we are still just on the beginning of that wave. Because nowadays, even despite the fact that ADCs are rather considered like unique, because you can hardly, produce generic of that, there is some idea of producing, let's put it in an apostrophe, generics of ADCs. And nowadays, it's only a majority of the ADCs is really vast majorities for oncological treatment. But now there are some ideas to maybe go into other therapeutic categories as well. So I believe, if you ask me, where I see us, in the future, I believe that, working about this ADCs and biologics and like this type of molecules, this is where I see the future.
Thank you.
Where do you see personally yourself in the next 5-10 years?
Mm.
Because you mentioned at the beginning, you started in chemistry, now are very deeply involved in the business development.
Well, I'm actually pretty happy on a position where I am, because it's really combining of, I really like to, interact with the people. This is how I met Pavlina, of course, and you. So this is great. And I really like to interact with, with the various experts from different areas. And combining that with kind of like knowledge, from the chemistry, because I still believe that my background of physical chemistry is a very, very good one. I have to admit that when I joined Quinta, I knew absolutely nothing about clinical studies. But, during the years, actually, I was able to, with the help of my friends and colleagues, I was able to develop some, like, at least solid knowledge, a little bit solid knowledge to discuss with the clients without any, like, super big hesitation. But of course, as I said in the beginning, I'm still too far, from the comparison myself with these experts we have. But coming back to your question, where I see myself, I still would like to do what I'm doing in terms of, like, business development, exploring new opportunities, and with having, like, a network of very good partners, like what we do together as well, for instance, to expand our audience of the clients, because I believe there are still plenty of very nice ideas on the market in terms of, targets for the medicines, what might be some new, like in America, 505(b)(2), these type of products that basically were established drugs. You reformulate and use it for a different, I don't know, either like path of,
the indication.
Indication, yeah, exactly. So this in a nutshell, I most likely I will not come back to be like a head of lab already.
So thanks so very much for this nice summary, and I hope we can collaborate further and even more and more in the future.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It was excellent.